We are here today with Paul Mason, an expert on today's author, Abraham Lincoln, who is much more than just an author, obviously. Hopefully you can help us with our questions, Mr. Mason.
Call me Paul. An expert? I'm just a guy that wrote a paper that you liked.
First of all, can you tell us the name of the era in which Lincoln lived?
Okay. Yes. He lived in the, I think it was called the Sectional Controversy, Civil War, and Reconstruction era. That's what it's called.
And how might the era have affected his writings?
His writings? Well, before the Civil War, the idea of the war, of the country splitting, weighed heavily on his mind. But during the Civil War, slavery, an institution he abhorred to begin with, really influenced his decisions. Got him! There. Nice. Here.
And, in your mind, what are his major writings?
That's actually quite easy to answer. I'd say his three most important writings are the Emancipation Proclamation, the Gettysburg Address, and his second inaugural address.
And for our viewers at home, what are these writings about?
Well, for our viewers at home, the Gettysburg Address was an address obviously given to remember the Battle of Gettysburg. Very famous. The Emancipation Proclamation was a document that set the precedent for the abolition of slavery. It didn't really functionally abolish slavery, but practically speaking. But it did change the foreign view of the war, and it allowed for it was a war measure. Anyway, the second inaugural address was an address summing up the war, giving an explanation for its inception, and suggesting a merciful plan for the reconstruction of the South, which was kind of important, I'd say.
Did the writing reflect the feelings or anything typical to the time?
Reflected the times. Yeah, I'd say the Gettysburg Address was brilliant at that. The war was just horrible, and it really reflected that. Yeah.
The major historical events that are linked with Abraham.
The Civil War and the abolition of slavery, obviously.
I'm sorry, I have a script, no choice. I have to ask these questions. Now, why would we read his works today?
The apathetic teen question. Well, Lincoln's writings and his speeches shed light on a very formative time in America's history. If he weren't alive, and this is just speculation, but if he didn't live, we might have two countries instead of just the one. The South would have been treated horribly, and so on. That's obviously speculation, but things would have been much different without his life.
Could you describe his legacy?
Interestingly, actually, he doesn't have any direct descendants living, so in that sense, he doesn't have a legacy. But you're probably talking about the his actions and writings that are his legacy. Yeah.
Yes.
His actions kept the Union together and set the precedent that allowed for the complete abolition of slavery.
Now, globally speaking, how did his life change life for us today?
Greatly. Lincoln's writings, speeches, and actions allowed for the states of America to remain united. And he set the precedent for American abolition of slavery, which was a long time coming.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Paul Mason. It's been a pleasure. Oh.